This is, I think we have everyone in attendance.
Judge, I am so sorry.
Oh no, what have you done? And it's not even 10 o'clock yet, so.
Right. Okay, so I do not have a calendar at all. I need a calendar. Did nobody email me nothing?
No problem. We will send you one. Can you put your email in the chat?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, not a problem.
Good
Okay,
morning,
and
Judge. This is
good
Katrina. Good morning.
morning.
Is there any solicitor on the line can email us the offers for today? Apparently, we did not receive them.
No, Miss Melissa was asking me the same question this
Yeah,
morning.
we did not
so-
receive them. So whoever was administrating the offers, if there's any way that you can please email them at this
Good
time.
morning, Miss Lewis. I'll be glad to email the offers.
I appreciate that. I just emailed you too and in the chat
Okay.
to ask you for them earlier.
Mr. Walker, I must have my calendars confused. Okay, I'm just going to assume that you are still, well, never mind, I put in the chat to you. Okay.
Okay, I will email everyone their offers. Thank you.
All right. So we will email the probation, or the calendar to our probation officer, Ms. Thomas. Her email should be in the chat. Just send it to litigation manager, Melissa Grace. And Mr. Walker, yes, go ahead and email that too. Okay, I don't
Thanks,
see.
Ian.
Yeah,
Your Honor,
I-
whenever you're ready, this is 3 South. This is going to be Christopher Lemos, position number 19. Position
thank you,
19.
sir. Thank you. All right, this is position number 19, and we have Mr. Christopher Lemos. Good morning, Mr. Lemos. Can you see me
Good
on the
morning.
screen?
Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Lemos, my name is Judge Lal, and we're going
Your Honor, I
to.
can barely hear you. I can't hear her.
Oh dear. They need to increase the volume. All right,
I'm sorry, Judge.
no problem.
I can barely hear you.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me now?
Relax. You're talking too much.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Lemos, your case number is 22 CR 003 639F. You've been accused of battery from a June, oh, he's left.
Yes, ma'am.
Was it something I said? Okay.
Oh, no, I'm getting, I can barely hear you, so I'm getting close to the speaker.
Okay, all right. So Mr. Lemos has got his ear planted to the laptop. Mr. Lemos, as I was saying, my name is Judge Lal, and your case number is 22 CR 003 639F. You have been accused of battery from a June 9th, 2022 incident. First of all, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say during the course of this virtual proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you is Attorney Daryl Coleman. Mr. Coleman, your client is with us, but he's just got his ear very close to the speaker of the computer.
Yeah, I see him, Your Honor. Good morning.
Okay, good. Good morning. And this is position number 19. I understand that we are going to have a bond hearing,
That's correct, Your
all
Honor.
right? I also want to be sure to arraign this case if it's not been arraigned before. Is your client planning to enter a not guilty plea?
At this time, yes.
All right. So, and do you waive a reading of the accusation?
We will waive reading.
All right. Mr. Lemus, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, Mr. Lemus, your attorney has indicated that you plan to announce not guilty to the charge of battery. You are charged with this misdemeanor offense, and upon your entry of a not guilty plea, the case will then be scheduled for trial. At the time of the trial, the prosecutor would have the complete burden to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt and to prove the charge against you, as well as to overcome your legal presumption of innocence. If the state does succeed, you could be convicted and face a penalty of up to a year in prison and or up to a $1,000 fine. Given this information, how do you plead? Mr. Lemus, do you plead not guilty?
Not guilty, Your
All
Honor.
right. Is that how you plead?
Yes.
All right. I heard a yes to that. Would you agree, Mr. Coleman?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so this case has been arraigned. We will address his bond. Go ahead, Mr. Coleman.
Your Honor, Mr. Lemus currently has a $3,000 bond. I'm requesting a signature bond on his behalf. Speaking to him, he is 37 years of age. He has resided in Atlanta, Fulton County for the last year. He's been employed at the airport for the last 7 months, working at the Delta Sky Club. He does have family here in town, one brother. He states to me that he does have a room at a rooming house in Lakewood. He would also like the court to know that he has been assaulted during his time there at the jail. Speaking to him yesterday, you can see that his face is swollen and fractured. He may require surgery for that. He also wanted the court to know that his mother is in the hospital suffering from Alzheimer's in Chestnut Ridge in Cummings, Georgia. Again, I'm not fully aware of his criminal history, but he is before the court today charged with a battery. He has a $3,000 good bond. At this point, I am requesting a signature bond on his behalf based on his circumstances and the fact he has been in custody for the last 14 days.
All right, thank you. Who's our pretrial officer this morning? Is it Ms. Jackson or, Ms. Harrison, good morning.
Good morning, Judge.
Ms. Harrison, we are addressing position 19. Mr. Christopher Lemos, he was given a $3,000 good bond about 2 weeks ago. Do you have his GCIC, please?
23 cycles. He has a 2016 misdemeanor conviction for DUI under the influence of alcohol, a 2016 disorderly conduct in Hall County. The DUI was in Gwinnett. He has a disorderly conduct in Hall County, a 2016 DUI under the influence of alcohol, also in Gwinnett. Two violations of probation, one failure to appear, a 2015 willful obstruction and disorderly conduct conviction, Hall County. A 2010 DUI under the influence of alcohol. Nothing further.
Thank you. Ms. Sari, do you have any comment on the request for a bond modification?
Yes, Your Honor, and good morning. I apologize for the delay. The state is recommending that the bond remain as set. This defendant is charged with battery, and the victim in the case, Arthur Green, he is the defendant's co-worker, and they actually live at the same rooming house. So he is a threat to the victim. He does have a risk of intimidating the victim as well. We've heard from pretrial regarding the 2017 FTA. He also had a 2018 battery out of Hall County. I wasn't able to determine what the disposition was on that. So given his risk of flight, reoffense, and danger to the victim, the state is recommending that the bond remain as set, as well as the victim stating himself that he is afraid of this victim and has had prior incidents with him in the past. Nothing further.
I'm sorry, did you say they're roommates in the same location?
They live at the same rooming house.
Rooming house, okay, understood, thank you. Okay, Mr. Coleman, anything else to add?
No, Your Honor.
All right. I don't see any reasons to change the bond amount given his criminal history record, given the allegations of this warrant. So I'm going to keep the bond the same amount at $3,000. It is going to be a good bond with no further contact with Arthur Green and to stay away from the Polar Rock Road, which I'm assuming is the rooming house where this incident occurred. So his next court date will be set
Well,
by
Your Honor,
the
if
division
we could just
judge.
pass this for a moment so I can speak to Mr. Lemos. I don't know if I could be put in a breakout room or if I would need to call out to the jail.
All right, go ahead. Ms. Lewis, first of all, let me see. Deputy at 3 South, do we have another case at 3 South right now?
Not right now. I'm actually waiting for him to come out. It's gonna be, Mr. Groove.
Okay, so I'm going to put 3 South and Daryl Coleman into a breakout room, and I'll move on to South Annex. Ms. Lewis, go ahead.
Good
All right,
morning, Your
South
Honor.
Annex. Good morning, Deputy Milton. Who do you have this morning?
Okay, let's do, I don't know who the attorney is for Ms. Farley, position 6, Farley Davis.
All right, how many cases do you have at your location?
I have Ms. Bateman, position number 2. She is on, that area is on lockdown,
Okay,
quarantine, not lockdown, but quarantine.
okay.
Ms. Bateman's reset anyway, for trial division.
So Ms. Bateman is going to be a reset.
To jail jury judge, trial division.
Has she been arraigned?
No, Judge, I'm gonna file a waiver.
Okay, so Mr. Tom White's going to file a waiver of arraignment for position 2.
Right, and they will be finished June 30th.
Okay. All right, so moving on to position 6, I have, whenever you're ready, Deputy Milton. All right. Good morning, Ms. Davis Farley. My name is Judge Lal, and I'm going to make an announcement that applies to you as well as to the individuals seated behind you. Good morning. As I said, my name is Judge Lal, and we are addressing the state all-purpose calendar. These are calendars in which individuals have been accused of misdemeanor offenses. Please remember that when we address your case, that you have a right to remain silent about the facts of the case. Any statements you make during the course of this virtual recorded proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. You cannot afford one. One of our attorneys from the Public Defender's Office or a conflict defense attorney will be representing you. All right. If the jail staff could look at the chat feature, we have conflict defense attorney, Ms. Zakia Watson Cafe, trying to reach a Don Travius Williams. If someone could respond to her to give her some contact information, that would be helpful. Thank you. All right, moving back to Ms. Mia Davis Farley. Ms. Davis Farley, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Tom White. Do you see Mr. White on the screen?
I do.
All right. And with regards, excuse me. All right, with regards to this case, it is 22 CR 003-624C, in which Ms. Davis Farley has been accused of battery, domestic violence from June 6, 2022. Mr. White, this is going to be a negotiated plea.
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Davis Farley, may I place you under oath for purposes of the plea? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Mr. Segura, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, sir. What is the plea recommendation for Ms. Davis Farley?
The recommended plea is 12 months to serve 34 days, credit for time served 17 days, balance probated, and FREP, a stay away from 583 Paynes Avenue, Northwest Atlanta, and no further contact with Sean Hunter. Thank you.
All right, Mr. White, is this the terms to which your client agrees, and do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
It is, and we do, Judge.
All right. Ms. Davis Farley, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
I have not.
All right, and have you understood the proceedings so far?
I have.
And are you satisfied with your attorney, Mr. White?
Certainly.
I'm sorry, was that a yes?
Certainly I am.
Okay, that's good. Good to know. Thank you. Ms. Davis, is anyone forcing you or inducing you to take a plea today?
No, they're not.
All right. If you decide to plead to this particular charge, you would have to give up your constitutional right to go back to court, to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, to be able to have the assistance of counsel so that you could present your evidence to challenge the state's case, evidence of defenses, to confront your accuser, examine witnesses, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes.
And how do you plead to the one count of battery domestic violence?
Shit, I mean, no, I'm not prepared to give up those rights. I mean, what am I supposed to say? I can't, I mean, can you repeat yourself?
If you decide to plead guilty to the
Right.
charge of battery domestic violence,
Right.
you would be sentenced today and you will have to give up your constitutional rights to go back to court, to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, to be able to confront your accuser, examine witnesses, have the assistance of counsel so that you could challenge the state's case, argue your case in front of a judge or jury, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay.
You will not be able to exercise those rights. You would have to give them up and instead plead guilty and be sentenced today. Is that what you're prepared to do today?
No, I'm agreeing to the plea that was made. No.
The plea that was recommended is that you serve 12 months.
Judge,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. White.
sorry to interrupt. If I may, Ms. Farley, if you want to accept what we talked about yesterday,
Yes.
which nobody's saying you have to, but all the things that you agreed to, then you need to say that you are pleading guilty.
Oh, okay. I wasn't understanding. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I apologize.
No worries.
All right, so Ms. Davis Farley, how do you plead to the one count of battery domestic violence?
I will be pleading guilty, Your Honor.
All right, your sentence is 12 months to serve 34 days, credit for time served 17 days. If you have no other cases at the jail, your time at the jail is concluded and you will be released within 24 hours. Do you
Yes, ma'am.
understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Once released, you will have to report to probation next week, either Tuesday or Thursday. Okay, someone's talking, but I'm not sure who. While you're on probation, you need to complete a 6-month domestic violence intervention program. This will be done at your expense. You must begin that program within 60 days of being released. While you're on probation, you're also to stay away from 583 Paynes Avenue. That's P-A-I-N-E-S Avenue in Northwest Atlanta. And you cannot have any contact with Sean Hunter. You're to stay 200 yards away from Sean Hunter, not communicate with this person in any way, form, or manner. I will waive your probation fees for the next 7 months. After you've completed the classes, you will be you will continue being on probation and you will start paying probation fees after 7 months. Any questions, Mr. White?
None from the defense, Judge.
Ms. Davis Farley, do you have any questions about your sentence?
No, ma'am, everything is understood.
All right, you will report to probation next week, either Tuesday or Thursday at 132 Mitchell Street.
Thursday,
Indeed.
Judge.
All right.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, Ms. Thomas, what
Thursday
was
would be
that?
good. This probation. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thursday would be good.
I'm sorry, Ms. Thomas, we had a feedback. What was your question?
I was saying that, no, Thursday would be good. You can start your
Next
appointment on
Thursday.
Thursday. Yes, ma'am.
Next Thursday.
What is the address to that location?
132 Mitchell Street in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right.
Okay, thank you. That concludes this case. Deputy Milton, did you have another person?
Yes, I have position.
I'm sorry, I do apologize. Good morning, this is Sergeant Johnson. I need to get the position number 24 done in courtroom number 2, please, if
Okay.
possible.
Okay.
We'll do 24 and then I'll alternate with
Thank you,
South
Judge.
Annex.
Thank
All
you.
right. And then I have another question before we begin with 24. Mr. Coleman, are we done with Mr. Lemus?
Actually, Mr. Lamus is going to be negotiated plea this morning, Your Honor.
All right, you need to
I
send.
would like to ask if you all have my plea paperwork there.
No, we don't.
Okay, I will call and have it sent down.
All right, I don't know what the plea recommendation is as well, so you need to put that in the chat to our litigation manager, Ms. Grace.
Okay, so she doesn't have the calendar?
She has the calendar, we just don't, I don't know if there was a plea recommendation for Mr.
Yeah, if there
Lemus.
was.
There was? Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
it's on the
Thank you.
calendar, position
Okay.
19.
We are addressing courtroom 2, Mr. Quincy Riley, case number 22 CR 003788G. Mr. Riley has been accused of loitering and prowling from June 4th, 2022. This announcement is for Mr. Riley and everyone else who is in courtroom 2.
5 add-on.
All right, for those in courtroom 2, I'll be addressing each of your cases on a one-on-one basis. So please do remember that you have a right to remain silent about the facts of your case. Anything that you say during the course of this virtual recorded proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. All right, this is position 24, and this is going to be a plea. Mr. Riley, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Mr., is that Mr. Coleman?
Yes, Your Honor, it's me.
All right. And Mr. Coleman, this is going to be a negotiated plea?
Correct.
All right. So Sergeant, I need to place Mr. Riley under oath. Mr. Riley, for purposes of this plea, please raise your right hand. Do you, Mr. Riley, for purposes of this plea hearing, I need to place you under oath. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Regarding guilty or not guilty, I would consider to say I'm guilty regarding the case. Yes, yeah.
All right, so you're pleading not guilty?
If this ain't a trial, I didn't say anything about a trial, so I said I was gonna plead no contingent to this case.
That's correct, Your Honor. He is pleading.
All right, so if you want to take this plea, may I place you under oath? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth?
Yes, it will.
All right, please put your hand down. You can mute the screen for now, Sergeant. Okay, Ms. Sari, we are addressing Quincy Riley, position 24. What's the recommended sentence?
Yes, Your Honor, the recommendation was for a guilty plea, and that's 12 months to serve 17 days, credit for time served 17 days, the balance suspended, and stay away from Atlanta General Machine Works at 1430 Central Avenue in East Point.
I'm sorry, repeat that address again.
It's 1430 Central Avenue in East Point.
And that was 140.
30.
1430, okay. Central Avenue in East Point, all right. Okay, and it appears that Mr. Riley wants to enter a plea of nolo contendere. What's the state's position on that?
Well, first, Your Honor, if we can hear from pretrial, whether he has entered a NOLO in the past 5 years.
All right, Ms. Harrison?
He has a 2017 NOLO for marijuana possession less than an ounce and a 2017 criminal trespass.
All right.
So I
Thank you,
believe
Ms.
that would disqualify him for the NOLO plea.
We can do a guilty plea, Your Honor. That's fine.
Well, I don't know whether your clients are going to agree to that, so let's see. Okay, so Mr. Coleman, you've heard the recommendations, you've heard the the state's objection. And Mr. Coleman, what else? Do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID if your client decides to proceed with the plea?
Yeah, we will so stipulate. We just ask that the court accept the plea as negotiated.
All right, thank you. Sarge, can we unmute courtroom 2, please? Thank you. Mr. Riley, if you want to proceed with this plea, the only plea that we can accept today, if you want to accept the recommendation, is a guilty plea. Do you still want to proceed?
Yes, I would like to proceed. And with that said, upon my guilty plea, I definitely want to plead guilty. But I would like to also let the court know that since I've been here approximately 20 days incarcerated. If this jail, if this institution violated my civil rights, refused to give me adequate food and water, if this Fulton County Jail.
All right, Mr. Riley, I understand that you may have some civil issues, and if you do, we'll definitely take that up through your attorney. But right now, I want to proceed with a plea hearing, or I can hear it another day.
I won't plead guilty.
All right. Let me ask you some questions first. Do not interrupt me anymore. Otherwise, we can reset this towards the end of the calendar, or we can hear this next week. So, Mr. Riley, first of all, I need to ask you whether you've consumed any medication or alcoholic beverages recently.
Regarding this case, regarding this matter, no.
All right. And have you understood the proceedings as explained to you by your attorney and has what you've heard so far?
Yes, ma'am, because again, I'm dealing with some health problems. I definitely don't want to be in jail, so I'm definitely gonna plead guilty. So I don't have to be here because I'm not a working tax.
Thank Mr. Riley, you just need to answer yes or no.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with the representation you received from Mr. Coleman?
Yes, ma'am.
And is anyone forcing you or inducing you to take a plea today?
No, ma'am. It's just the people that work.
Mr. Riley, you just need to answer yes or no.
No.
If you decide to plead guilty to the charge of loitering or prowling today, you will have to give up your constitutional right to go back to court in the future, to challenge this charge in a court of law before a judge or a jury, to be able to present your evidence to challenge the state's case, to present evidence of your defenses, to confront your accuser, to examine witnesses, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. By pleading guilty, you will not be able to exercise these rights. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Okay, I want to get it. Yes, I can understand what you're saying. Yes, but
that's all you need to say, Mr. Riley.
But will I be able to possibly, if the East Point Police Department brought me here, if I feel like
Mr. Riley, that's something you need to take up on your own once you get out of jail.
Yes, sir, will do.
All right.
Well, I will be in Fulton County Courthouse upon release.
Okay, that's fine, Mr. Riley, but we just need to get through this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are you prepared to give up your rights to challenge this criminal case in a court of law?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
How do you plead to the one count of loitering or prowling?
I will be pleading guilty.
Accept your guilty plea. Your sentence is time served. You cannot return to the Atlanta General Machine place.
But they didn't give me a warning. I felt like
Mr. Riley, by pleading guilty, I am giving
sir.
you a warning right now.
Okay. Yes,
You
ma'am.
cannot return to that location at 1430 Central Avenue in East Point. If you are seen within 200 yards of that location, if you're seen at that building, at their parking lot, at their sidewalks, you will be arrested, because I'm telling you right now that you have to stay away from that location.
Okay.
This is your official warning on record. Do you have any questions?
You talking about that particular place of business?
Yes, sir. Please don't go
Entire
back there.
address, 1430
Okay. That's
Central Avenue, East Point, Georgia.
Okay.
200 yards is the distance of 2 football fields. So that's a big wide gap. Do you understand?
All right. Well, I understand that, but if I feel like I want to go ahead and still sue East Point the county.
All right, that concludes this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I think it's called General Machine Shop. Is that correct, Ms. Sari?
Atlanta General Machine Works.
Works.
Yes.
All right. Okay, South Annex, who do we have? I'll be right with you in courtroom 2.
Position 30 and 31. They're both the same, Ms. Morton's.
All right. Mr. Coleman, is that your client?
No, actually, it would be Mr. White's client.
Okay, Mr. White, we are addressing your client, Jasmine Sharana Worthens.
Yes,
She's got
Judge.
2 positions on our calendar, 21 CR 001598Y and 21 CR 004971Y. The first case is a battery domestic violence charge from April 2nd, 2021. And the second case is a simple battery accusation from March 31st, same year. I don't know what the announcement is. How are you proceeding?
The judge, we need a breakout room. I need to give her, I spoke with her yesterday at the jail, but I didn't have specifics of her offer. So I need to explain those to her. Most likely we'll be entering a plea, but I need to just make sure that she is good with all of the terms.
All right, Ms. Lewis, if we can place Mr. White and South Annex in a breakout, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Ms. Worthens, you're going to be talking to your attorney in a breakout room. So we'll go to courtroom 2. Courtroom 2, who do we have?
Position 29, Mr. Waddell.
Honor, don't forget about 3 South. I just want to get him done so I go to these other floors.
Okay. Courtroom 2, please hold. I really need to address 3 South. Okay, going back to position number 19. Okay, going back to Mr. Christopher Lemus, who has already been advised of his right to remain silent, and his attorney is Mr. Coleman. He was recently arraigned on the charge of battery, but I understand that he'd like to address a plea. So Mr. Lemus, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir. Yes.
All right, Ms. Sari, what's the recommendation for Mr. Lemus?
Yes, Your Honor. The state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 90 days, credit for time served 14 days, the balance probated, 8-week anger management course, no contact with the victim, whose name is Arthur Green, and a stay away from the incident location, which is, it's the 186. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, hold on, I gotta say something. When I get out, I have to pick up my stuff. All my belongings are at there. That's the only thing I have to go get.
We'll address that, sir.
Yeah, and my life savings is in there.
Sir, we will address it.
Okay, and I have a new rooming house to move
Okay,
to.
sir, just be patient. We will address everything, all right?
I don't have no problem with him.
And of course, Your Honor, the state is amenable to a one-time escort by law enforcement.
All right, and what was that full address again? I've only got Polar Rock Road.
Yes, it was 186 Polar. I'm just pulling it up 1 second.
Rock Road. Rock Road.
Polar Rock Road.
I know. And that's in
Southwest.
Atlanta, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. All right, Mr. Coleman, are those the terms to which your client has agreed?
It is, Your Honor. We will stipulate to a factual basis as well as venue and ID. We would ask that the court accept the plea as negotiated. We will request that the probation either terminate or go non-reporting once he's completed the anger management classes, and that probation fees be waived.
I'm not going to put him on non-reporting. He's going to be on active probation.
Okay, again, we would ask then that probation fees be waived.
We'll see. All right. Mr. Lemos, we're going to have to unmute your screen. Now, I'm going to ask you some questions. And if you don't understand my question, you say, I don't understand.
Your Honor,
But
why
if
can
you-
I not go non-reporting? If the only reason I'm pleading guilty is because I want to go home and I'm trying to save my job.
You are not going to go back to Polar Rock Road.
That's fine, but all my stuff is there.
I know, we're going to give you a one-time permit to go there with a police officer to
okay,
get your
but-
stuff.
Why are you not gonna let me go non-report when you're acting like I'm a criminal? When
Okay, Mr. Lemos.
Yeah.
I am the one that called the police.
Mr. Lemos.
Mr. Coleman, I'm resetting this case for next Thursday, and he can address his plea at that time.
No, Your Honor, I apologize. I just want to make sure.
That's not the microphone.
Your Honor, I apologize.
back,
I'm
sit
sorry. I just want to make sure.
You don't understand, sir,
Okay,
that
I will be quiet.
keep interrupting. You keep interrupting because you're not listening.
Yeah, and if we could just please try to get through the plea this morning.
I don't know if we can get through the plea if he keeps
Okay,
arguing.
if you could just give me 1 second, Mr. Lemos, just like we discussed yesterday, while we're doing the plea this morning, only speak when you're spoken to, only answer yes or no. Please do not interrupt any further, sir. Otherwise, your case will be reset. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
We need to unmute 3 South. Mr. Lemos, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No.
And have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yes.
And are you satisfied with your attorney, Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Repeat?
Yes.
And if is anyone forcing you to take a plea today?
No.
Are you taking this plea while under duress?
No.
If you decide to plead guilty to this charge of battery against Arthur Green, you would have to give up your constitutional rights to go back to court, to have a trial before a judge or a jury, to be able to have the assistance of counsel to challenge the state's case, present your defenses, confront your accuser, examine witnesses, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes.
Do you understand that if you are pleading guilty, that you would have to undertake an 8-week anger management program at your expense, that you will be reporting to probation every month, that you cannot return to the Polar Rock Road rooming house except for one time with a police officer to retrieve your belongings, and that you cannot have any contact with Arthur Green?
Yes.
How do you plead to 1 count of battery from June 9th, 2022?
Guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 90 days, credit for time served 14 days. Mr. Coleman, how many more days does your client have at the jail?
He would need to serve 31 more days, Your Honor.
He will be in jail for 31 more days. Upon release, he will report to probation at 132 Mitchell Street. Upon release, after 31 days, he will report to probation at 132 Mitchell Street, where while on probation, he will complete 8 weeks of anger management classes at his expense. He will stay away from 186 Polar Rock Road in Atlanta, Georgia, and have no further contact with Arthur Green. He may return to the rooming house on Polar Rock Road 1 time only with a police officer to retrieve his personal belongings. And then after that, he's not allowed to return to that location. His probation fees shall be waived for the next 4 months upon his release. After that, he will continue to report to probation and start paying probation fees. That concludes this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Also, someone from my office is bringing down the plea paperwork. I want to know if you have it.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Courtroom, all right. Mr. White, are you ready with your client?
Yes, Your Honor.
All
And
right.
she will be entering a plea.
All right. Mr. Coleman, the probation officer is Mrs. Thomas. If you want to reach her through the chat, is Mrs. Thomas _JCS.
All right, thank you.
This is Jasmine Worthens. As I mentioned already, case numbers on position 30 and 31. Ms. Worthens has been accused of battery and simple battery respectively in the 2 cases. Ms. Worthens, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Tom White. I understand that you're entering a plea. If you could please raise your right hand to be under oath. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Worthens, you may put your hand down. Thank you. We're going to hear from the prosecutor as to what they're recommending if you decide to plead guilty to these charges. And then I will hear from your attorney. Ms. Sari?
Yes, Your Honor. The state's recommendation for both cases would be the same. Jail time is 12 months to serve 51 days, credit for time served 51 days, the balance probated, no contact with the victim Sharon Worthens, an FFIB course, MHET, and stay away from 3375 Towanda, TOWANDA Drive, South Fulton. And for the second case, the same conditions, except the victim in that case is Danielle Worthens. Nothing further.
Mr. White?
Yes, Judge, we just asked, accept the plea is negotiated. We would ask that you waive all of her probation fees as she has no real income right now. She does have to take the family violence course, and they are requiring the other evaluation as well, which may cause some, she may have to pay for some sort of services in that regard as well, so.
Does she have a good address or contact information?
As far as I'm aware, she said she did not have an issue staying away from the address listed, and she had a place to stay. I did not specifically get that address from her.
I've got a Blanton Avenue location in Atlanta, Georgia. Ms. Worthens, is that your current address?
That's my mom's home.
All right. Is Sharon and Danielle your mother by any chance?
No, those are
No,
my.
they-
All right. And do you live at Blanton's Avenue with your mother?
No, ma'am.
Do you have an address where you live?
No, ma'am.
Would you be able to receive mail at your mother's home?
Yes, ma'am.
So probation will need a good address for you as well as a good phone number and email. Is the address your only contact information?
No, I have a phone number and an email.
All right. Does your attorney have that?
No, he doesn't. I don't think so. No.
All right. In a few moments, you will have to give that to Deputy Milton. She's seated across from you, I think.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And you'll have to give that to Mrs. Thomas at JCS.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right.
Judge, should be reporting in person the first time?
I believe so. It'll be next Thursday at 132 Mitchell Street.
Okay.
Am I receiving probation for this case?
Yes, you are. You'll be
I
on
was-
probation. Your probation fees will be waived, but you need to attend and complete a domestic violence program, which is 6 months long. You will also need to undertake an evaluation and submit yourself to any treatment if required. And you cannot return to Tawanda Drive in South Fulton.
Okay,
Is that your understanding of the sentence?
how long am I didn't know about probation. I didn't know.
Ms. Worthing's, yeah, we mentioned that you have to be on probation. They are the ones that ensure that you do the family violence intervention program and the other evaluation. And it would be up to, you're going to be on probation for 12 months. Typically, right now, probation is you're reporting by phone or mail. As long as you're getting everything done, it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, so I'll be given instructions.
All right, Mr. White, why don't you talk to Ms. Worthings, because I have someone holding also in courtroom 2. Ms. Lewis, please place Mr. White and South Annex in a breakout again. All right, thank you. Please explain the whole concept of probation, please. All right, courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
This is position 29, Mr. Waddell.
All right. Mr. Waddell is represented by Mr. White.
No, Your Honor, that's my client.
Okay, good. All right, we are addressing 22 CR 003-699J. Mr. Joshua Waddell, who has been accused of speeding, reckless conduct, willful obstruction of an officer from August 20th, 2019. Mr. Waddell, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Daryl Coleman. Mr. Coleman, I understand this is going to be a negotiated plea. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Waddell, may I place you under oath for purposes of the plea? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. So, Ms. Sari, what's the recommendation for Mr. Waddell?
Yes, Your Honor, the state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 13 days, credit for time served 13 days, the balance suspended, and that sentence recommendation is to run concurrent with each charge.
All right. Mr. Coleman?
Your Honor, we would just ask that the court accept the plea as negotiated. We will stipulate to a factual basis as well as venue and ID.
All right. Mr. Waddell, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am, Your Honor.
And have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
Are you satisfied with your attorney, Mr. Coleman?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
And if you decide to take this plea, you would have to give up your constitutional right to challenge these charges in a court of law. You will not be able to have the assistance of counsel so that you could challenge the state's evidence, present your own defenses, confront your accuser, examine witnesses, as well as have the state try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
And your attorney has explained to you that by entering a plea today, it may have an impact upon any other open cases against you?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
All right. How do you plead to speeding, reckless conduct, and willful obstruction of an officer?
Guilty.
Your sentence is time served. That concludes your case. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Come on, Mr. Maxwell. Next, we have position 20, Mr. Maxwell.
Mr. James Maxwell's case number is 22 CR 003-638J, accused of theft by taking from June 9th, 2022. Mr. Maxwell, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Daryl Coleman. I understand this is going to be a plea. May I place you under oath, sir? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Sari, what's the recommendation for Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, Your Honor, the state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 60 days, and that's serving all 60 days, no 2-for-1. Credit for time served 15 days, the balance probated, no contact with the victim, whose name is Roy Smith, and a stay away from that incident location. And I'm sorry, I'm just pulling it up 1 second. I'll grab that, Your Honor, in just a moment.
Would it be 1500 Northwest Drive in Northwest Atlanta?
The address of the R.A. Smith Asphalt.
I'm just reading it off the bond order.
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
R.A.
I'm sorry. No, that's 1498 Nash Road.
1498
Nash Road, Northwest in Atlanta.
All right. All right. Guess we're the wrong address on the bond order. Okay, so 1498 Nash Road in Northwest Atlanta. Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Mr. Coleman, does your client agree to these terms? Understanding that he has 45 more actual days to serve if he accepts the plea?
Actually, Your Honor, that was not my understanding. It's typically 2 for 1. The offer on the counter did not specify that it would be day for day, so we are requesting that he be sentenced 2 for 1. That is within the jail's discretion. They normally give 2 for 1 credit on misdemeanor charges. Again, if the state was looking for him to serve more time, then they should have written a different offer. But the offer I presented to him was 12 months, serve 60 days, meaning that he would have to serve 30, get credit for the 15 that he has done, and would have to serve 15 more days.
And
So
Your
again,
Honor, that was included in the offer. It was to serve all 60.
All right, so we have a dispute in terms of the offer. I can't go forward if if everyone doesn't have the same terms. So I can either reset the case, or we can, y'all can go in a breakout.
If I could just speak to Mr. Maxwell then in a breakout
All right,
room.
Mr. Coleman, please call the jail at 404-612-2392, and you'll be able to confer with Mr. Maxwell.
All right, thank you.
All right, South Annex, we're going back to Ms. Worthen's positions 30 and 31. All right, Ms. Worthens, we are resuming the plea hearing in your case as the prosecutor has indicated that if you decide to plead guilty to the 2 charges in these cases, that you would have to be placed on probation, and you need to complete classes as well as an evaluation and stay away from Sharon and Danielle. Do you still want to proceed with the plea, or would you like a trial?
Oh, I'd like to proceed.
All right. So Ms. Worthens, first of all, again, I'm going to repeat, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am.
And have you understood the proceedings now after your conferences with your attorney and and what you've heard so far?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Is anyone forcing you or inducing you to take a plea today for these 2 cases?
No, ma'am.
And if you decide to move forward, Ms. Worthens, you would have to give up your constitutional rights to go back to court, to challenge these 2 cases in a court of law, to have the assistance of an attorney so that you could present your own evidence to challenge the state's cases, to present your own defenses, to examine witnesses, confront your accusers, as well as have the state try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes, ma'am.
In case 21 CR 001598Y, how do you plead to 1 count of battery, domestic violence as to Sharon Worthens?
Guilty.
As in case 21 CR 004971Y, how do you plead to the charge of simple battery as to Danielle Worthens?
Guilty.
Your sentence is going to be is going to be the same and concurrent for both cases. It's going to be 12 months to serve 51 days, credit for time served 51 days. The remainder of the time you will be on probation. If you have no other cases holding you at the jail, You will be released within 24 hours and you must report to probation next Thursday at 132 Mitchell Street in Atlanta, Georgia. Do you
What day-
understand?
Yes, ma'am. What date is that?
That's next Thursday. The day is going to be the 30th of June.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And once you are there, you will give them all your contact information, including the address where you receive mail, your phone number, and your email. Have you provided that to Deputy Milton by any chance?
No, ma'am,
All right.
not yet.
Before you leave, make sure you do so that she can put that in the chat to our probation officer, Mrs. Thomas at JCS. While you're on probation, I will waive all your probation fees. You will report to probation every month. You will enroll and complete a 6-month domestic violence intervention program. And you will also undertake an evaluation and submit yourself to any treatment as required. Probation will be able to guide you as to the qualified places where you can take these classes and to do your evaluation. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
At all times while you're on probation, you are not to return to 3375 Towanda Drive in South Fulton, Georgia. You have to stay 200 yards away from that location and not be seen anywhere near there. Do you have any personal belongings at that location?
Ma'am, I don't.
All right, so no reason to go back. You're also not to contact Sharon Worthens and Danielle Worthens in any way, form, or manner, and to stay 200 yards away from them. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good luck with your probation and your cases.
And
thank
Judge,
you. Yes, Mr. White?
and I asked to waive 12 months of her probation fee since with no income and
I
having to pay
did.
for
I
the
granted
classes.
it.
And
I granted it. All
Oh, okay, I'm
probation
sorry.
fees are waived.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you. All right, my goodness. Deputy Milton, I'll come back to you. Courtroom 2, who do we have?
Position 25, Mr. Simon.
Okay,
Were we gonna go back to position 20?
as soon as I'm done with the other 2, sir. Thank you. All right, I'm addressing courtroom 2 and repeat again the name of the,
Position 25, Mr. Simon.
okay, I'm sorry. I'm old, Sarge, short-term memory. Okay. Okay, I have Corey Smith. Are you Mr. Corey Smith?
Corey Simon.
Oh, Corey Simon, excuse me, Corey Simon. Case number 22 CR 003-652G. And Mr. Simon has been accused of criminal trespass at MARTA and obtaining unlawful entry into the facility on June 9th, 2022. Mr. Simon, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Daryl Coleman. Now, we're going to have a plea hearing for purposes of the plea. May I place you under oath?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Simon, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You may place your hand down. Ms. Sari, what's the recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor, the state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 30 days and to serve the entire 30 days, credit for time served 15 days, the balance suspended, and stay away from all MARTA properties.
All right. Mr. Coleman, they're asking that he's already served 30 days and you want him.
Yeah, I was kind of confused with this as well. If I may make a suggestion, if the prosecutor wants them to serve double time, if they could just make the offer in this instance, if you actually want him to serve I guess 60 days, maybe write it up as 12 months served, 60 days, because again, the jail automatically gives them 2-for-1 credit. And it's just easier for us to understand and to relay the offer to the clients, because I was confused as to this as well. I don't know if you actually want him to do 30 days, give him credit for 15, or if it
Yeah,
was
in the
days,
offer,
if you want to serve 30.
in the offer, there's a quote for him to
Yeah,
serve
yeah, I understand.
30.
Yeah, I get
So
that. but
I'll write
again,
it up differently this
Yeah,
next
it's
time.
just,
Thank you,
you know,
Mr.
not
Coleman.
norm-
Thank you,
normally
Mr.
not the way
Coleman.
that we interpret it when we speak to the clients.
All right, let me just, this is a simple response, yes or no.
Well,
Miss-
actually, I had listed this as a
Mr. Coleman,
non-negotiated.
please. And I understand your confusion and I do appreciate the position you've been put in. I do.
Yeah,
Miss
well,
Sari.
again, this was going to be a non-negotiated plea because again, I was confused. So that's why I said this be non-negotiated anyway.
All right. Miss Sari.
Yes, Your Honor.
The way it's written is a little confusing, so I'm going to clarify again with the state. Is your offer 12 months to serve 30 days, credit for time served 15 days, which means he's done with jail time and he'll be placed on probation, then is balance suspended? Or do you, the state intended him to spend additional time at the jail?
Additional time, Your Honor.
All right. So then this is going to be a non-negotiated plea. So
Correct.
the state was asking for, to serve actual 30 days, credit for time served, actual 15 days, so that he'll be serving an additional 15 days. Is that the state's intent?
Yes, Your Honor, that is the state's intent.
All right. So, and what's the factual basis for this recommendation?
Yes, so in this case, this is a MARTA case at 41 10th Street in Atlanta, where the defendant pushed his way through the gate without paying the required fee, and he had an active suspension at MARTA. The reason why the state is recommending the additional jail time is because this defendant was literally in Fulton County Jail for the same acts the day before. So he pled out to a case where it was the same act, and then he went to MARTA, a different MARTA location, and he did the same thing. So essentially, that's why we are asking for the additional jail time, his risk of reoffending. And also he does have a history, a violent history, ag assault, guilty conviction from 2020, a simple assault from 2021, that was a guilty conviction. And he does have an open case in Cobb for simple assault and theft by taking. So that's the reason for the state's request for additional jail time.
All right, thank you. Mr. Coleman?
Your Honor, just very briefly, I don't have a narrative police report, just the warrants from when he was arrested back on June 9th. This is a non-violent offense of low-level misdemeanor. Again, not to make light of what he is accused of doing, but we feel that the 15 days that he served in jail is sufficient. So we'd be requesting that he be released on time served after serving 15 days, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, I'm sorry, in that previous case that was on June 7th, which was 2 days before or a day before this incident, he was given a time served offer. So he's been given that offer before, and he has shown the court that he will continue to do the same acts.
All right, okay. So, and Mr. Coleman, anything else to add?
No, Your Honor, that's it again. Low-level nonviolent misdemeanor offense, we'd be requesting he be released on time served for 15 days.
All right. Mr. Simon, I've heard arguments on both sides, and the third door that I can open is to not accept any plea and have this case go to trial. Do you understand, Mr. Simon?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and yes, it is very disturbing, the fact that you had recently just taken a plea on a similar charge, and then you get arrested, turn around and get arrested again, for whatever rhyme or
I gotta
reason.
get to work, ma'am. I work for Atlanta Paving, ma'am. That's my only transportation to get to work. I work for Atlanta Paving. I got an active job.
All right,
And Your
and
Honor,
so we've already advised you of your right to remain silent. And by your very statements, you've already indicated that you willfully used MARTA in violation of a suspension.
I apologize about that, Your Honor.
No, that's fine. That's fine. If that's how you want to deal with it, that's perfectly fine, except that I'm not comfortable taking this particular sentence the way that your attorney is asking, that it is, since he describes it as a low-level offense. So I don't believe, Mr. Coleman, that your client is remorseful or that he intends to comply with the stay away, given his willful act and his admission at the present time. I will reset this case for June 30th. And at that time, I hope by then the state would provide you with a more succinct plea recommendation. But at the present time, based on your client's elocution, I don't believe that he is going to comply with the suspension.
So it's going to be reset to next Thursday's SAP calendar?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, and Ms. Sari, please spell out, if you want them to serve actual days, it must state serve actual time, day for one, not 2 for 1.
Will do, Your Honor.
Double
All
it,
right.
easy.
Thank you.
Your Honor, can we
Your
go to
Honor.
position number 21, Mr. McWhorter? He's on 4 North, position 21.
Your Honor, before you go to the next
I'm listening.
person, can I be excused? I've just been notified that Mr. Williams is still in quarantine
Okay,
and he wasn't signed up for a plea or anything. So
all right. Do you want me to put it on another SAP date?
yes, Your Honor.
Okay, this is Don Travius Williams. Can somebody tell me which position number that is?
He's in an add-on calendar, position
Oh, I
5.
see. Okay. Okay. All right. Don Travis Williams, add-on calendar. We're going to reset that to, how's June 30th?
Probably fine.
I mean, and you let me know. I can do June 28th. I can do June 30th, or the following SAP calendar will be on June 6th, or July 6th.
The 28th is a little bit better for me.
All right,
Your Honor.
reset June 28th, which would be a Tuesday SAP calendar.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Moving back to 4 North, who do we have?
Position number 21, Mr. McWhorter.
Repeat again, please.
Position 21.
21, okay. I have Cortez McWhorter, position 20. Is this Cortez McWhorter?
Yes, ma'am. Cortez McWhorter.
All right. And Mr. McWhorter is accused of battery in case number 19 CR 008260F from October 6, 2019. Mr. McWhorter, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Daryl Coleman. Okay. And is this going to be a negotiated plea?
It is, Your Honor.
All right. And out of abundance of caution, it looks like it's going to be serve 67, credit for time served 67 days, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. McWhorter, please raise your right hand for purposes of the plea. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Thank you. You can put your hand down. All right, Ms. Sari, as we were saying, what's your plea recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor, as you stated, it's 12 months to serve 67 days, credit for time served 67 days, the balance probated, an 8-week anger management course, no contact with the victim, whose name is James McGlotton, that's McGlotton, and to stay away from the incident location, 1315 Easton Street in Atlanta. Nothing further.
Easton, E-A-S-O-N.
Correct.
Okay. All right, Mr. Coleman?
Your Honor, we will stipulate to a factual basis as well as venue and ID. We would ask that the court accept the plea as negotiated. We request that the probation go non-reporting once he's completed the anger management classes and that probation fees be waived.
8-week anger management class. Any objection to non-reporting?
Yes, Your Honor, we will object to non-reporting. I'm sorry, we will not object to non-reporting. I was thinking about terminating. Non-reporting is fine.
All right. Mr. McWhorter, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No, I have not, ma'am.
And have you understood the proceedings so far?
No.
You've not understood?
Oh, say that again. I couldn't barely hear because I got finished washing my ears.
Have you understood what we're doing this morning, sir?
Yes, of course, of course. I understand everything.
Are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes.
And is anyone forcing you to take a plea today?
No, not at all.
If you decide to plead guilty to this charge, you would have to give up your constitutional right to go back to court, to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, to have the ability to challenge the state's case, present your own defenses, confront your accuser, examine witnesses, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
No, ma'am.
All right, then I cannot take your plea.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I got soap in my ear. That's why I'm trying to clear my. Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I got soap in my ear. I couldn't hear it. Yes, ma'am. I plead the charge.
Are you prepared to give up your constitutional rights to challenge this charge in a court of law?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I had a lot of soap in my ear. I just got finished washing my face too, so I couldn't barely hear you for certain things.
Mr. McWhorter, how do you plead to the one count of battery?
Yes.
Sir, do you plead guilty or not guilty?
I plead guilty.
Your sentence, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 67 days. Credit for time served, 67 days. You'll be placed on probation. You will report to probation at 132 Mitchell Street next Thursday, June 30th. While on probation, you will complete an 8-week anger management program at your expense. You must start the program within 60 days of being released. You will have no contact with James McLaughlin. You will stay away from 1315 Eason Street in Atlanta, Georgia. And you will report to probation every month until your anger management classes are complete.
Thank you so much.
I will waive probation fees for the first 4 months, after which, if you have completed your classes, your probation will be non-reporting. If you violate any of the conditions of your sentence, your probation will be revoked and you will complete the rest of the year in prison. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a
Anna.
blessed day. Happy 4th of July.
You too.
Next, we have position 23, Morris.
All right, courtroom 2, we have position 23. Before I start with Mr. Morris, Mr. Coleman, have you spoken to your client, Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, that's going to be a plea this morning.
Ooh, sorry, Ms. Grace, that went down. You catch it in mid-fight? Okay.
Did you want to go back?
Mr. Hezekiah Morris Jr. is position 23, accused of obstruction of an officer and fare evasion from June 8th, 2022, with regards to murder. Mr. Morris, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Daryl Coleman. May I place you under oath, Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Ms. Sari, what's the recommendation for Mr. Morris?
Yes, Your Honor, the state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 16 days, credit for time served 16 days, the balance suspended, and to comply with MARTA suspensions.
Does he have any suspension that you know of presently?
I believe so. With this case, he does have a suspension.
All right. Mr. Coleman?
Your Honor, we just asked that the court accept the plea as negotiated. We will stipulate to a factual basis as well as venue and ID.
Mr. Morris, have you consumed any kind of medication or alcohol recently?
I got charged with murder, ma'am.
Have you consumed any kind of medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am.
And have you understood the proceedings so far?
With murder, I ain't never had trouble with murder.
I don't understand.
I've never been on murder.
Your Honor, to clarify that his suspension is effective on July 8th, 2022, and it ends on September 6th. So it's not in effect as of today, but it will go into effect. So we are asking for him to comply with that when it goes into effect.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Morris, I'm going to ask you again. Have you understood what's going on so far?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
You understand that you're entering a plea today of guilty to fair evasion and obstruction of an officer at MARTA. Is that
Yes,
your
ma'am.
understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
If you decide to enter this plea, you will not have the ability to go back to court to have a trial in this case, to challenge the charges in a court of law, to
Yes,
be able
ma'am.
to confront your accuser and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to the one count of fair evasion and obstruction of an officer?
I plead guilty.
All right, your sentence is 12 months to serve 16 days, credit for time served 16 days, balance suspended. You cannot, now listen very carefully. Your suspension from MARTA begins on July 8th. That's about 2 weeks from today. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And it will expire on September 6, 2022.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I still got 36 months in here anyway, so.
Mr. Coleman, is your client got other holes?
1 second.
I think I got felony
Number
for
6.
He has holds from other jurisdictions.
All right, so he's going to be released to another hold?
Correct.
All right. So, Mr. Morris, you can return to MARTA after September 6th.
Ma'am, could you tell me what I got a hold for Fulton County?
The holds are from Dublin Dublin PD and Lynchburg PD. Again, that's all that I know. Dublin, Georgia, and Lynchburg, Virginia.
Now, I ain't been down there. You sure you got Abra Morris?
Sir, I'm just telling you what's on the booking screen. I don't have any other information.
Yes. That's the other Morris in our cell. No, that's the other Morris in my cell. I'm Abra Morris. They got the wrong Morris.
Hold on,
Oh, I'm so.
hold on, let me check.
I look, there's not the same picture.
All right, Mr. Morris,
second.
Mr. Morris, please have a seat back there and we will
I think
clarify whether
they
you have
probably
any
brought out
holes.
the wrong Morris because I don't think there was another Morris on the calendar.
No, yeah, he's the only one.
Yeah, so they have the wrong defendant.
That's my roommate. That's my roommate, Morris.
Yeah, they brought out the wrong defendant. That's why I always ask for the birthday.
It's supposed to be Hezekiah Morris.
Yeah, it's Hezekiah. We apologize, Mr. Morris.
This is Hezekiah Morris. Did I just sentence the right person?
No, you did not.
All right, so that sentence is vacated and rescinded.
I'm gonna speak to them. Yeah, I'll take that.
Mr. Morris, what's your full name?
Avery Morris.
Avery.
Yes.
And Hezekiah was not brought out?
I'll bring him down, Judge.
Yeah, my roommate Morris.
I'm by myself for right now in the courtroom, so I would have.
All right, not a problem. I'm glad we caught it at this time. Thank
Yeah.
you. All right, so I guess we just tear up that paperwork.
Well,
all right, while we are resolving
you're not-
courtroom 2, just one
Yeah,
second.
okay.
We're going to South Annex. South Annex, who do we have?
But add-on 1, Miss, say it loud so she can hear me. Ghani.
This is Ms. Mumina Ghani, case number 22 CR 003574C. Ms. Ghani has been accused of reckless conduct from from October 16, 2020. Ms. Ghani, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be is it Tom
Coleman.
White?
No, it's me, Your Honor.
All right, it's Mr. Daryl Coleman.
Yeah, before we go on with that, I just want to ask you, you didn't tear up the paperwork for Mr. Morris, did you?
Not yet.
Okay, yeah, because we still need the paperwork.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I spoke to Ms. Ghani this morning. This is going to be reset for jail jury. I don't know if she needs to be arraigned or not.
Yes, she does.
So we could proceed with arraignment. We will
All
waive
right.
reading.
Your Honor, my paid attorney is actually on Zoom, Mr. Durante Partridge.
Yeah, Judge, she has a private attorney. He didn't file an entry. He just got on the Zoom link. This is for add-on number 1.
All right. Good morning, Mr.
Hey,
Partridge. How are you, sir?
Judge Law, I'm doing well. How are you today?
Doing good. Thank you. So your client is Ms. Ghani?
Yes, Judge, I'll be filing entry on this case. We have a probation matter in Superior Court that I'll be handling as well. So I'll come on this one also, Judge.
All right. Do you have any objection to me arraigning the case this morning?
Not at all, Your Honor. It'd be a not guilty plea that we enter. We'd ask for 10 days to file any motions upon receipt of discovery.
Okay. And do you waive a reading of the accusation?
Yes, Judge, we'll waive formal reading.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Ghani, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Partridge. And upon your entry of a not guilty plea to the charge of reckless conduct, the case will be scheduled for trial, at which time the state would have the complete burden to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt and to overcome your legal presumption of innocence. If the state prevails, you could be convicted and face a penalty of up to a year in prison and or up to $1,000 fine. Given this information, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
Your case is arraigned and it's going to be further notice for trial. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Partridge. You have a good day.
Good to see you, Judge. Thank you so
You
much.
too.
Have a great one.
Mr. Partridge, do me a favor. Could you please file an entry of appearance and make Ms. Lewis's day?
Yes, Your Honor, I'll get it done today. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Be good.
You too, Judge.
Thank
Can
you,
we
Ms.
be
Ghani.
excused, Your Honor?
We're done then?
Yes, at the South Annex. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Milton. Have a good one. Thank you. Courtroom 2, who do we have, please?
Judge, actually,
7, position 7, Mr. Evans.
Okay. Is Mr. Maxwell, can you put him next on deck?
Okay.
All right. And we're going to address position number 7, Mr. Robert Lamar Evans. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And Mr. White, what was your question?
I would just double check. Make sure that we had, you're right, Judge. Sorry. I thought I had one more female at the South Annex, but apparently not.
Whitney Craig.
Well, she refused to come out last night, so.
Right, and she's still doing the same thing this morning.
Okay.
All right, we'll just reset that to next Tuesday's SAP, and let's see if you have better luck then, Mr. White.
Oh, luckily it won't be me.
Okay, and what's that position number?
4.
4, okay. So this will be reset to June 28th. All right. So Mr. Robert Lamar Evans, case number 22 CR 003627E, is accused of simple battery domestic violence on allegedly on May 2nd, 2021. Mr. Evans, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Tom White. For purposes of this plea, may I place you under oath?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Segura, what's the recommendation for Mr. Evans?
The state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 32 days, credit for time served 16 days, ban is prohibited, FREP, a stay away from 1919 Metropolitan Parkway, Southwest Atlanta. No further contact with Anunka Evans, Anunka spelled Anunka, Evans, and Sean Sibilia. Sean spelled Jean, Sibilia spelled Sibilia. At one time, please escort to achieve his belongings. Thank you.
Mr. White, are those the terms to which your client agrees, and do you enter the necessary stipulations?
We believe so. Yes, Judge, and yes. We would just ask for a waiver of 6 months of probation fees to apply to his DVIP class.
Does he have any holes?
Judge, I believe he does.
No, I don't.
Let me double check. I have a note that he does.
Where?
Just.
I don't have any holes, Mr. White.
All right, well, and double check. I may have made the note on the wrong spot, but just.
Cause I got transferred from Henry County to here. That was it.
Okay, all right. Ms. Evans, just hold tight. We're just gonna double check.
I don't see one, but. Thank you.
I don't either, Judge. I made the note on the wrong case.
Okay, so he has no holes. All right, that's perfectly fine. Thank you. All right, Mr. Evans, have you consumed any kind of medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am.
And have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yes, y'all, we had a technical break. I didn't hear everything, so I didn't hear everything that went down, but because it was a breakup in the video at the time, y'all was saying.
Did you hear the prosecutor?
Some of it.
The prosecutor is recommending 12 months to serve 32 days, credit for time served 16 days. So technically, if you have no other holes, your time at the jail is concluded.
Yes, I heard that.
If you have no other holes at the jail, your time at the jail is concluded.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You'll be released within 24 hours and you must report to probation next Thursday at 132 Mitchell Street in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes, ma'am.
While you're on probation, you need to complete a 6-month domestic violence intervention program at your expense. And you must stay away from 1919 Metropolitan Parkway in Southwest Atlanta. Have no contact with Anunka Evans and Jean Sibilia. You may return to the Metropolitan Parkway one time only with a police officer to retrieve your belongings. Your attorney has stipulated to the factual basis, venue, and ID for this case, and has indicated that you are in agreement to these terms.
Yes.
Is any of the information I just provided to you incorrect? I'm sorry, please unmute. Courtroom 2.
Yes, I understand everything, Your Honor.
All right.
Come here with that, because you'll be reset. I'm just letting you know that now. Don't come here with that, because you will be reset. Thank you.
All right. Moving on, Mr. Evans, as I asked, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am.
And have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with your attorney, Mr. White?
Very much, Your Honor. Thank you.
And is anyone forcing or inducing you to take a plea today?
No, ma'am.
If you decide to enter a guilty plea to this charge, you would have to give up your constitutional rights to go back to court and have a trial before a judge or a jury. You will also not be able to challenge the state's evidence, present your own defenses, confront your accuser, examine witnesses, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to one count of simple battery, domestic violence?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Your sentence is 12 months, served 32 days, credit for time served 16 days, balance probated. You will complete a 6-month domestic violence program, which you must enroll within 60 days of being released. I will waive your probation fees for the first 7 months of your release. And then after that, you will continue to report to probation and start paying probation fees after 7 months. You're to stay away from 1919 Metropolitan Parkway in Southwest Atlanta. Have no contact. Stay 200 yards away from Ananka Evans and Jean Sibilia, which means that you cannot contact them in any way, form, or manner, in person, virtually, electronically, or otherwise. You may return to the metropolitan location one time only with a police officer to retrieve your personal belongings, and that must be done within 30 days of being released. Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Position 14, Mr. Hunt.
After that.
Oh, I'm sorry. We can go to Maxwell, position 20. Come on, Mr. Maxwell.
There we go.
They want to come back to you.
All right, we are going back to position 20, James Maxwell, accused of theft by taking, case number 22 CR 003638J. Mr. Maxwell has been advised of his right to remain silent, and we were in the process of addressing a plea. So, Ms. Sari, I'm going to have you allocute the plea again.
Yes, Your Honor, the plea recommendation with the adjusted time, so it reflects what I actually intended, is 12 months to serve 120 days, credit for time served 15 days, the balance probated, an anti-theft course, no contact with the victim, Roy Smith, and a stay away from 1498 Nash Road, Northwest in Atlanta.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman?
Your Honor, we would ask that the court accept the plea as negotiated after speaking with Mr. Maxwell. We would stipulate to a factual basis as well as venue and ID. We would ask that the probation go non-reporting once he's completed the theft class and that probation fees be waived. I think that the plea form may need to be changed to reflect 120 days.
All right, how many more days would he have to serve?
45 more days.
All right, thank you. Correct. Mr. Maxwell, have you understood? Let me place you under oath again. You are James Maxwell, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Are they here for the Maxwell case?
Mobley.
Okay, not yet. Not yet. Thank you. All right, Mr. Maxwell, have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yes.
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and you've had an additional conference. Are you certain that you understand the terms of the recommended sentence?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you consumed any kind of medication or alcohol that may impair your ability to think clearly today?
No, ma'am.
And are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
If you decide to move forward with this plea, you would have to give up your constitutional right to go back to court, to challenge this case in a court of law, to have the assistance of counsel to present your defenses, examine witnesses, confront your accuser, and have the state try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to the one count of theft by taking?
Guilty, ma'am.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 120 days. Credit for time served, 15 days. You have 45 more days to serve at the Fulton County Jail. Once you've completed the time, you will be placed on probation, so you must report to probation at 132 Mitchell Street, where you'll be placed on probation to complete an anti-theft class. I will waive your probation fees for the first 2 months after your release. After that, once you have completed your class, your probation will be non-reporting. At all times while you are on active and non-reporting probation, You are to have no contact with Roy Smith, either in person or indirectly, or in any way, form, or manner. And you are to stay away from 1498 Nash Road in Northwest Atlanta. Do you have any questions about your sentence?
No, ma'am.
That concludes this case. Thank you.
I'm on my way back.
Your Honor, can we go to add-on 4? Mr. Kyle Puckett, South, add-on 4.
Excuse me, Judge. This is Katrina. On add-on number 4, that case has a private attorney, and that case was supposed to be reset before Judge Porter. So the case is reset before Judge Porter for the notice.
All right.
It was not supposed to be on the calendar today.
All right, Kyle Puckett, is that 5 South?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Puckett, as you've just heard, first of all, let me remind you of your right to remain silent, and anything you say about the facts of the case, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and your counsel is Nautica Allen. Is Nautica Allen still on the Zoom?
No, she was dismissed from the calendar.
Okay.
And
And what's his next court date before Judge Porter?
It's not a set in stone yet. It has to come from the litigation manager.
All right. Mr. Puckett, your attorney, Nautica Allen, will be in touch with you. And as soon as she receives a court date from the division of Judge Patsy Porter, they will hold a hearing either in person or via Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. That concludes your case.
Next, we have position 14, Mr. Hunt.
This is this Zatar Hunt?
Yes, ma'am.
This is case 22 CR 003623E. Mr. Hunt was
Yes, ma'am.
accused of battery from a November 30th, 2021 incident. Mr. Hunt, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Tom White. Are we proceeding with a negotiated plea, Mr. White?
We are, Judge.
Please raise your right hand, Mr. Hunt. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Hunt, we're first going to hear from the prosecutor, Mr. Segura. Yes, sir.
And the state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 32 days, credit for time served 16 days, balance probated, 12 weeks of anger management, 40 hours of community service, and no further contact with Joseph Kashu. Kashu spelled K-A-S-H-O-U-H. Thank you.
Mr. White?
Judge, we just asked you, accept the plea as negotiated. We would ask for a waiver of 4 months of probation fees and for his probation to go non-reporting. Once he completes all his requirements, violence issue.
Oop, I lost your audio in the last part. Okay, so you want it to be non-reporting after it's completed?
That's correct, Judge.
Okay, and do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
Yes, yes, Your Honor, we do.
Mr. Hunt, have you consumed any kind of medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am.
And have you understood everything so far?
I lost the last part, ma'am, but I'm aware of what my attorney said when he came to see me yesterday, ma'am.
All right. Yeah, I agree with you. We lost his audio. He was agreeing to the factual basis, venue, and identity of the perpetrator in this case.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Hunt, is anyone forcing you to take a plea today?
No, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with the legal services you've received?
Yes, ma'am.
If you decide to plead guilty to the charge of battery, you would have to give up your constitutional right to go back to court, to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, confront your accuser, examine witnesses, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up your rights?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to the 1 count of battery?
Guilty, ma'am.
Your sentence is 12 months, served 32 days, credit for time served 16 days. Your time at the jail for this case is concluded, and you will report to probation next Thursday at 132 Mitchell Street. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
When you're on probation, you will give them all your contact information. Are you listening?
Yes, ma'am.
You will give probation all your contact information. You will start a program of anger management classes. You must complete 12 weeks of anger management classes at your expense. You will also complete 40 hours of voluntary community service. Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
You are to stay 200 yards away from Joseph Kashu and not have any contact with him whatsoever. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
I will waive your probation fees for the first 4 months while you are released. If you complete the anger management classes and the community service, your probation will be non-reporting.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Miss, Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I don't have any holes in, or anything, ma'am. So will I be released today, ma'am?
You'll be released within 24 hours if you have no holes.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
To the side, so the next person go. Write that stuff to the side, Hunt.
Okay.
Next, we have position 26, Stephens. You done with the pencil? You were supposed to step to the side. This is position 26, Mr. Stephens.
All right. Are you Jimmy Stevens or Jimmy Stephens?
Stevens.
All right. Mr. Stevens, your case number is 22 CR 003-631C. You've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Darrell Coleman. We are addressing a non-negotiated plea for the offense of battery, family violence allegedly occurring on August 17th, 2021. Mr. Stevens, we are first going to hear from the prosecutor, and then I'll hear from your attorney, after which I will let you know which option I'm going to select. I also have the option to not proceed with the plea and schedule the case for a trial. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Once you know of my option, then you can make a decision as to how you would like to proceed. Okay. Ms. Sari, what's the plea recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. In this case, the state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 60 days, credit for time served 16 days, the balance probated, an FFIB, and no contact with the victim, whose name is Holly Cravens. Your Honor, briefly, the facts of this case is that officers responded regarding to a domestic dispute. They spoke with the victim, who stated that while she was at a friend's house, which is the incident location, the defendant accused her of cheating and struck her in the face with an open hand. He left the scene and then came back to the incident location and hit her again in the face and in the stomach, which caused bruising and swelling. Your Honor, this defendant's history includes a 2018 ag battery, terroristic threats, obstruction, and false name case that is still open in Superior Court. He has a guilty conviction for criminal damage to property. And also, we checked records back in 1998, there was a battery against this very same victim. So his violence does go back to 1998 regarding this victim. And that's why the state's recommendation is the additional jail time, given the fact that he does have a risk of intimidating this victim and a risk of reoffending. Nothing further.
All right, thank you. Mr. Coleman?
Your Honor, we'd be requesting that the court sentence Mr. Stevens to less than the 60 days that the state is requesting. The battery back in 1998 was some 24 years ago when he was 18 years old. Mr. Stevens is currently employed as a night security guard, at a mechanic shop. I would like to preserve his job if possible. He's worked there for the last 3 years. He's also the father of a 16-year-old daughter. Aside from the battery in 1998 and the open case, I didn't hear any other violence in his history. Again, we requesting that the court sentence him to less than the 60 days.
All right. And Ms. Sari, under your recommendation, he would have an additional 22 more days or
Well, he would have an additional 14 days.
14, correct.
Oh, 60 minus 32. Okay. All right. Mr. Stevens, I was the one who originally heard the case at initial appearance. I was the one who set the bond. I'm also familiar with your GCIC, and based on all these allegations, I believe that the state's recommendation is the more reasonable one of the two. So you will be required to complete 14 more additional days at the Fulton County Jail. If you have no other holds, you would then be placed on probation to complete a domestic violence program. And at all times, you are to have no further contact with Holly Marie Cravens. So, Mr. Coleman, Mr. Stevens, would you like to move forward with the plea or would you like a trial?
Mr. Stevens, knowing that the sentence is what I told you it was yesterday, did you want to go forward?
Yes.
Please be aware that if we do reset this for trial, you may sit longer than the 14 days.
Yes.
So do you want to go forward?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. And Mr. Coleman, do you stipulate to venue and ID?
We will stipulate to a factual basis as well as venue and ID. We would ask that the probation go non-reporting and that probation fees be waived.
That's denied. Given his criminal record history and the allegations set forth, he will be reporting every month.
Will you waive the fees?
I will.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Stevens, may I place you under oath? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide to in response to my questions, that your statements are true and accurate?
Yes.
Thank you. May I place your hand down? Mr. Stevens, first of all, have you consumed any kind of medication or alcohol recently?
No.
And have you understood the nature of this non-negotiated proceedings?
Yes.
And have you understood your attorney and are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes.
Has he gone over the plea paperwork with you and explained your waiver of rights?
Yes.
And Mr. Stevens, is anyone forcing you or inducing you to take a plea today?
No, ma'am.
If you decide to enter a plea of guilty to battery, domestic violence, you'll be having to waive your constitutional right to go back to court and have a trial in this case. You will not be able to confront your accuser, challenge the state's evidence, present your own defenses, argue your case before a judge or a jury, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to the one count of battery, domestic violence as to Holly Cravens?
Guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 60 days, credit for time served 16 days. Once you've completed the additional 14 days at the jail, you'll be released and you must report to probation at 132 Mitchell Street. You will enroll and complete a 6-month domestic violence program at your expense. And while you are on probation, you shall have no contact with Holly Cravens at any time. You have to stay 200 yards away from her. You're not to communicate with her in person, through a third party, through any kind of phone or electronic device, and you're not to discuss her on social media. If you violate any of the conditions of this sentence, your probation will be revoked and you will complete the rest of the time in prison. Your probation fees shall be waived, but you are responsible for all fees for your classes. Do you have any questions about your sentence?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Position 23, Hezekiah Morris.
Mr. Coleman, have you spoken to this individual?
Yes, if he could just lower his mask. Yes, I did speak to him yesterday.
All right, thank you. And remind me again, what position number was that?
23.
23, thank you. All right, sir, my name is Judge Lal. Your case number is 22 CR 003632E, in which you've been, are you Hezekiah Morris Jr.?
Yes, ma'am.
And is your date of birth, what's your date of birth?
10/02/1978.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Morris, you've been accused of fair evasion and obstruction of a law enforcement officer. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts of your case, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you is Mr. Darrell Coleman. Is that your attorney with whom you consulted?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, Mr. Morris, I understand that we are going to have a plea hearing. So may I place you under oath? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Sari, once again, for the correct Mr. Morris Jr., what is your recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. The state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 16 days, credit for time served 16 days, the balance suspended, and to comply with the MARTA suspension that starts on July 8th of this year and ends on September 6th of this year. Nothing further.
All right, Mr. Coleman?
Your Honor, we just asked that the court accept the plea as negotiated. We will stipulate to a factual basis as well as venue and ID.
Thank you. Mr. Morris, have you consumed any kind of medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am.
And have you understood everything so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
If you decide to plead guilty to these charges, you would have to give up your constitutional right to go back to court, have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, confront your accuser, challenge the state's evidence, present your own defenses, examine witnesses, and have the state try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to one count of fair evasion and one count of obstruction of an officer?
Guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 16 days, credit for time served 16 days. You've already served your time at the jail, so it's the rest of the year is suspended. The condition is that you must comply with all MARTA suspensions. Presently, the information we have is that you have a suspension that begins on July 8th of this year and ends on September 6th of 2022. So if you want, once you're released, you can file an appeal with the necessary MARTA authorities. But if the appeal is not valid, then you cannot return to MARTA till after September 6th. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
That concludes this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
Thank you.
Judge Law, I have a quick announcement. You can have a seat over there.
Okay.
For position, it's an add-on on position 2, Mr. Eric Hughes, and also for Mr. Derek Pryor, he's also an add-on for position 3. They're both quarantined, but from what Derek is telling me, they're both taking pleas. But my sergeant is trying to figure out, even though they're taking pleas, are they able to still go home? Or do they have any holds before? Because I was still gonna go grab them and.
1 second, let me look at their paperwork. The pleas that they were doing in court today would not require them to serve any additional time. Looking at Mr. Hughes' paperwork, I think that this is all that he had. I don't see any holds for Mr. Hughes. And for Mr. Pryor,
Mr. Coleman, if your client is under quarantine, as we did in one of the other previous cases, if there's no additional time, then the court cannot the jail cannot restrain them
Yeah, that's what I was gonna pull them, but I was gonna make sure I clear out the.
And
before I
yes,
pull.
and in response to your query, if they take the plea today in their present condition, and they will be released within 24 hours in a positive COVID status, unless they are negative, if they test negative, but we still have to release them irrespective of their COVID status.
Yeah, and looking at Mr. Pryor's booking screen, I don't see any holds on him either. So both of them, these are the only cases that are holding them. The pleas that they would be doing this morning would not require them to serve any additional time.
Okay, I'll make sure I'll go get them, but my courtroom is gonna be cleared before I pull them and have.
That's
All right.
fine.
So we're going to hold on courtroom 2. Let's move to 4 North.
Your Honor, good morning. We have Mr. Terrence Funches, position number 8. Position number 8.
This position 8, you said?
Yes.
8.
Okay.
Is that Mr. White's client?
Oh,
It is, Judge.
Your Honor, disregard. This is not Mr. Funches. I'm sorry.
All right. We're holding.
My apologies, Your Honor. This is position number 5, Mr. Brad Davis.
All right. Mr. Coleman, did you receive the information you needed from probation, her email address?
Yeah, I did what I was gonna do. I was gonna wait till after court and then I was gonna
Okay.
email her the information.
Just want to be sure. Okay.
I have it. Thank you.
This is case 22 CR 003-700A. Are you Mr. Brad Davis?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Davis, you have a right to remain silent about the facts of your case. Anything you say, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you is going to be Mr. Tom White. Mr. Davis, you have been accused of violations of certain rules regarding being at a bus, rail, or station, and also of criminal trespass. As I understand, this is going to be a plea hearing. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, we are going to first hear the plea recommendation. Mr. Segura.
The state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 26 days, credit for time served 13 days, ban suspended, and a stay away from all motor stations. Thank you.
Mr. White.
And Judge, we ask you to accept the plea as negotiated, and the stay away from all MARTA, we would, subject to MARTA suspensions, ask that be the.
Mr. Segura, are you asking for in accordance with, well, it has to be in accordance with the suspension because it's balance suspended.
Process on the report that he has a permanent ban for motor property made effective on September the 16th, 2020.
I missed that. Did you say a permanent ban?
Yeah, he got one 2 years ago on September the 16th.
Okay.
Permanent ban from December 16, 2020. All right. Okay. Mr. Davis, and so Mr. White, do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
Yes, Your Honor, we do.
Okay. Mr. Davis, if you move forward with this plea hearing, you do understand that you have a permanent ban from all motor property.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you do understand that if you take this plea, that you are required to stay away from all motor, rail, and bus property, including their parking lots, their sidewalks, and their facilities.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, as long as you understand. Have you consumed any kind of medication or alcohol recently?
Rimron.
All right. Are you able to still understand the proceedings?
Yes, Your Honor.
And were you able to understand your conversation with your attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you decide to move forward with this plea, you would have to give up your constitutional right to challenge these charges in a court of law. There will be no trial before a judge or jury. You will not be able to confront your accuser, examine witnesses, challenge the state's evidence and present your own defenses. You will also have to waive your right to have the state prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to waive these rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
How do you plead to one count of certain acts certain violation of certain acts at a bus, rail, or station, and one count of criminal trespass? Mr.
Stated.
Davis, how do
Yeah.
you plead to these two charges?
Guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 26 days, credit for time served 13 days. Your time at the jail is concluded. If you have no other holds or no other cases, you should be released within 24 hours.
Yes, Your Honor.
You can, as I've already indicated, you are to stay away from all MARTA property. You have a lifetime ban, and you can only return if your privileges to use MARTA have been reinstated.
Yes, Your Honor.
Good luck.
All right. Next, we have position number 18, Sean Johnson.
We have Sean O'Kenley Johnson accused of obtaining unlawful entry to MARTA and criminal trespass on June 8, 2022. Mr. Johnson, your case number is 22 CR 003-633A. You have a right to remain silent about the facts of the case. Any statements you make, your statements can be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you is Mr. Daryl Coleman. This is going to be a plea, so may I place you under oath? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And Ms. Sari, what's the recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor, the state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 32 days, credit for time served 16 days, the balance suspended, and to stay away from all MARTA property.
In accordance with suspension, or what are we talking about?
Yes, Your Honor, he has a suspension that went into effect back in May of this year, and it ends on July 20th of this year.
All right, did you get another suspension from this case?
I do not see that, so
okay. All right, no problem, thank you. Mr. Coleman?
Your Honor, we'd ask that the court accept the plea as negotiated. We will stipulate to a factual basis as well as venue and ID.
All right. Mr. Johnson, we can unmute your screen. All right. Mr. Johnson, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you consumed any kind of medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am.
And have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
If you decide to take this plea of guilty to obtaining unlawful entry into MARTA and criminal trespass, you would have to give up your constitutional rights to go back to court, to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, to have the assistance of counsel so that you would challenge the state's evidence, present your defenses, confront your accuser, and have the state try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up your rights?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to the two charges brought against you?
Guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 32 days, credit for time served 16 days. If you have no other cases holding you, your time at the jail is concluded and you'll be released. The rest of the 12 months is suspended. Presently, you have a suspension from MARTA that requires you to stay away from all MARTA property until July 20th, 2022. However, as a result of this new case, this incident from June 8th, I suspect that you have another MARTA suspension. So you cannot return to MARTA property until all suspensions have concluded. You can go to the Lindbergh Station office in the company of a police officer and go inquire if you have any other additional suspensions and when do they end.
Yes, ma'am.
But you must be in the company of a police officer. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next, you got position number 8, the real Terrence Funches. There you go.
Are you Mr. Terrence Lamont Funches?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, repeat.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Funches, your case number is 22 CR 003-701B. You were accused of simple battery from an incident date of June 10th, 2022. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you is Mr. Tom White. Mr. White, I understand this is going to be a plea hearing, correct?
That's correct, Judge.
All right. And Mr. Funches, please raise your right hand for purposes of the plea. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge? Mr. Funches, do you solemnly, is he frozen? I think so. 4 North, your screen is,
Your Honor, can you repeat it again? We had froze.
do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Segura, what's the recommendation for Mr. Funches?
And the state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 28 days, credit for time served 14 days, balance probated, 8 weeks of anger management, 40 hours of community service, and no further contact with Jessica Dodd. Dodd spelled D-O-D-D. Thank you.
Mr. White?
Judge, we just asked that you waive the first 4 months of probation fees and generally accept the plea as negotiated.
Do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
We do.
Mr. Funches, if you could unmute 4 North, please. Mr. Funches, have you consumed any kind of medication or drugs recently?
No.
Have you understood the proceedings and your attorney?
Yes.
And is anyone forcing you to take a plea today?
No.
If you decide to enter a guilty plea to this charge of simple battery, you would have to give up your constitutional rights to go back to court and have a trial in this case. You will not be able to get an attorney to assist you with challenging the state's evidence, confronting your accuser, examining witnesses, and have the state try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to waive these rights?
Yes.
How do you plead to the 1 count of simple battery?
Guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 28 days, credit for time served 14 days. If you have no other holds, you'll be released within 24 hours, and you must report to probation next Thursday at 132 Mitchell Street. While on probation, you will complete an 8-week anger management program and 40 hours of voluntary community service. I will waive your probation fees for the first 4 months while you're on probation, and then after that, your probation can be non-reporting. At all times, you are to have no contact with Jessica Dodd. You're to stay 200 yards away from her and not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. Understood? I'm sorry, was that a yes?
Yes.
All right, that completes your case. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Courtroom 2, Francois, who do we have?
Yeah, before we move
I have
on to,
one quick announcement. One quick announcement for Tom. Position 9 and 10. I tried to get him up. He said he wasn't feeling well, that he couldn't walk. I don't know if you want to reset him or not, Mr. White.
Positions 9 and 10 is Brandon Grubbs. I can reset him for June 28th. Is that okay, Mr. White?
I believe,
30th.
I guess that's as soon as possible, Judge.
June 28th is this next Tuesday.
Okay.
All right.
yeah, very quickly, position 22, Mr.
Mr. Coleman, I have a couple of your COVID cases, so I need to address that first.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you. This is
Friends.
position, this is the add-on, position 2, Mr. Eric Hughes.
Sir, are you Eric Kwame Hughes?
Yes, ma'am.
Your case number is 22 CR 003-467Y. You've been accused of criminal trespass, obtaining unlawful entry into MARTA, and possession and use of drug-related objects from June 1st, 2022. Mr. Hughes, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you is going to be Mr. Tom White. Excuse me,
it would be me.
Mr. Daryl Coleman, excuse me, Daryl Coleman. All right, Mr. Coleman, this is a plea, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Hughes, please raise your right hand for the purposes of the plea. Do you solemnly swear the responses you provide will be the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Please place your hand down. Ms. Sari, what's the recommendation for these 3 charges?
Yes, Your Honor. The state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 23 days, credit for time served 23 days, the balance suspended, and to comply with the MARTA suspensions, one beginning on 5/1/2022, ending on 6/30/2022, and the second beginning on 7/1/2022 through 7/31/2022.
All right, thank you. Mr. Coleman?
Yeah, we would just ask that the court accept the plea as negotiated. We will stipulate to a factual basis as well as venue and ID.
All right. Mr. Hughes, have you consumed any kind of medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am.
And are you satisfied with the representation you've received?
I am.
And do you understand that you have an active MARTA suspension that ends at the end of July 2022?
I'm aware of it now, Your Honor.
All right, so today is just June, so your suspension extends all the way into July.
Okay.
And do you understand that if you decide to take this plea, that you would have to give up your right to go back to court, to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, to be able to confront your accuser, challenge the state's evidence, and have the state try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt? Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
How do you plead to the 3 charges brought against you?
I plead guilty, Your Honor.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 23 days, credit for time served 23 days. This is a time served sentence. Your balance is suspended, but you cannot return to MARTA until August 1st, 2022.
Okay, Your Honor.
And once you are released and processed out of the jail facility, which will take up to 24 hours, you are to isolate yourself and place yourself in self-quarantine until you are tested negative for the COVID virus. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Come on, Mr. Barrett. Next is Mr. Barrett Pryor, position 3, add-on.
This is case 22 CR 003-546C, State versus Barrick Pryor. Mr. Pryor has been accused of simple battery, obstruction of an officer, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4 counts of obstruction of a law enforcement officer from a June 4th and June 5th, 2022 incident. Mr. Pryor, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts of the case, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and you're represented by counsel Daryl Coleman. Is this a negotiated plea?
It is, Your Honor.
Mr. Pryor, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the responses you provide will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Segura, what's the recommendation for Mr. Pryor?
The state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 38 days, credit for time served 19 days, balance probated, 8 weeks of anger management, stay away from 294 Penelope Drive, Northwest Atlanta, and no further contact with Lauren Winger. Thank you.
No further contact with whom?
Lauren Winger. Lauren spelled Lauren. Winger spelled Ringer.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coleman?
Your Honor, we would ask that the court accept the plea as negotiated. We would stipulate to a factual basis as well as venue and ID. We would ask that the probation go non-reporting once he's completed the anger management classes and that probation fees be waived. This was Mr. Pryor's address. I don't know if he still has property there. If he does, I'd ask that he be allowed to go back one time with law enforcement to retrieve his property.
And he's been living at that location?
He was, yes.
All right. And does he have a new address?
He will have a new address, but I don't have it now.
All right, thank you. And I'm sorry, you did stipulate that. So, okay, Mr. Puckett, have you consumed any kind of medication? Excuse me.
No, I haven't.
Have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No, I haven't.
And have you understood everything so far?
Yes,
And are you satisfied with your attorney?
yes,
And is anyone forcing you to take a plea today?
no, they're not.
If you decide to enter a plea of guilty to simple battery and 4 counts of obstruction of an officer, you would have to give up your constitutional rights to go back to court and have a trial over these charges. You will not be able to face a judge or a jury so that you could present your own evidence of defenses to challenge the state's case, to confront your accuser, examine witnesses, and have the state try to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes, I am.
And is anyone forcing you to take a plea today?
No, they're not.
How do you plead to 4 counts of obstruction of a law enforcement officer and 1 count of simple battery?
I plead guilty.
Your sentence is 12 months to serve 38 days, credit for time served 18 days. As your time at the jail is completed, you will be released within 24 hours and you will be reporting to probation. I will give you the requirements to report to probation shortly. In the meantime, once you report to probation, you will need to complete 8 weeks of anger management classes, and that must be commenced within 60 days of being released. You are to stay away from 294, was it something drive?
Penelope.
Penelope Drive. 294 Penelope Drive in Atlanta, Georgia, and have no further contact with Lauren Ringer. Mr. Pryor, I will waive your probation fees for the first 4 months upon your release and first 4 months once you start reporting to probation. After that, you will continue to report to probation and start paying probation fees. Do you understand?
Yes,
Now, once you are released from the Fulton County Jail, you will self-isolate and remain in quarantine until you test negative for the COVID virus. Do you understand?
yes, I do.
What's your address to where you're going to self-isolate?
I'll probably get a hotel room once I get out. I have money on my credit card, so that'll be my first step, I guess. I don't.
All right. Once you test negative for the COVID virus, you must report to probation at 132 Mitchell Street, but no longer than 30 days.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. That would be your reporting requirements to probation. Make sure that you wear your mask and that you inform them that you do have a negative COVID test. If you have proof of the test, that would certainly help.
Okay, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Why can't I go back to my own address?
Because apparently Miss Lauren Ringer still occupies those premises.
She doesn't stay there. She was just there visiting.
All right, I'll amend the sentence then to you may return to 294 Penelope Drive if Miss Ringer no longer occupies the property.
She
So
does not.
you can go back with a police officer. You must let the police officer know that you are positive for the COVID virus
Yes, ma'am.
and that, but he must accompany you to the location. And if it is verified that Ms. Ringer does not occupy the premises, then you can return to that location.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
All right, and you need to self-isolate there until you test negative before you report to probation.
Okay, no problem at all.
Thank you.
Your Honor, very quickly, position 22, Dekeith Mobley. He's going to be reset jail jury. He was not brought out, but I understand that he has family there.
Sarge, we have family here waiting for Mr. Mobley. Why was he not brought to the proceedings?
Well, I asked that he not be brought out. It's reset jail jury. It's my understanding that these cases are not holding him in. He does have several felonies that are no bond.
Understood. All right. Mr. Coleman, folks, can you see Mr. Coleman on the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, he is the attorney for Mr. Mobley. All right. So Mr. Mobley, are you telling, Mr. Coleman, are you telling me that Mr. Mobley is entering a not guilty plea?
That's correct.
Are you
I think he may
filing a
have
waiver
already-
of arraignment?
I can do one, but I think he may have already been arraigned. This is a 2019 case. He was arrested and had already posted bond, so there was a bond.
No, he was never arraigned, Mr. Coleman.
Okay, I can do a waiver.
All right, so you will file a waiver of arraignment no later by 5 o'clock today?
Yeah, I'll file it this morning.
All right, and and that will reschedule his case for trial. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So folks,
Your Honor.
the attorney, just 1 second, please, I'm addressing the courtroom. The attorney for Mr. Mobley and the attorney have discussed the case. And so Attorney Coleman will be filing a document we call a waiver of arraignment. Essentially, Mr. Mobley is pleading not guilty.
Yeah, that's what he told me. Maybe he didn't understand. Mr. Coleman. He pleaded guilty. Maybe he didn't understand, Mr. Coleman.
Well, let me find out.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Coleman, family members in the courtroom indicate that apparently Mr. Mobley wanted to take a plea today.
No, and I was not recommending that he take a plea. He was offered 12 months to serve since he was being held on no bond felonies. Even if he did accept that offer, he was not going to be released.
And that was the offer.
All right, just 1 second, please. All right. That's okay, you can leave. All right, understood, understood. Mr. Mobley has other more serious cases holding him at the jail. So I cannot tell you what was the nature of the conversation he had with the attorney, but whatever you were informed, he and his counsel have already made a decision that they would like to go ahead and have a trial. Because the plea recommendation that was offered by the prosecutor was not acceptable to Mr. Mobley. All right? So I do apologize if you were informed differently, and I'm sorry you had to wait through this whole process, but at least the little one had a civil education on what we have to go through. I know, I'm so sorry, sweetie.
That's why I didn't know that he did that. He was waiting on him to come and get him. I don't understand. That's why he told us to come, but we can be able to
You need to put your mask on while you're in the courtroom.
He really don't understand, and that's why he was like, y'all please come to court.
If you have any other questions, I'll be glad to answer them, but I have to get back. I have other people waiting, all right? But in the meantime, if you want to contact the Fulton Public Defender's Office, and If you have his case number, you have his case number? Okay, Ms. Grace, if you can write this down. This is one of the attorneys who's representing him from the public defender's office.
Yeah, if you could please let them know, I'm just representing him on the misdemeanor.
Understood.
Yeah, and
Right.
again, he's made bond on that. They would need to speak to, and I don't know who the public defender is representing him on the felony.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to have them. In this particular case, in Fulton County State Court. Case number 22 CR 003-795J. All right. The bond is not holding him. If he resolves his more serious cases, he could be released on bond. Okay? All right. But he has more serious cases in Superior Court.
Can I ask you one question? Okay, the case the serious case that they hope that he incarcerated for right now, do we have a court date for that? Will he be seen for that?
I don't have that information because I'm state court. But if you contact the public defender's office, give his name, they will be able to inform you of the public defense attorney who handled his felony case.
Okay, I got you. I understand.
All right? This is not the only thing holding him.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
I
back,
need to know who I'm sending the waiver to.
you can send it to melissa.grace@fultoncountyga.gov. Three
All right, thank
South.
you.
You're welcome. Who do we have at 3 South?
Hey, this is going to be position 9 and 10. I assisted him out of the bed.
All right. That's Mr. White's client. All right, this is Brendan Grubbs. Are you Mr. Grubbs?
Your Honor, it's Drew.
Judge, before we begin, I
Let me
would
just confirm the identity. Are you Brendan Grubbs?
Mr. Drew.
Grubbs, okay. All right. Okay, Mr. White, what was the question?
Judge, I would like to go to a breakout room with all parties involved. There's some sensitive issues that are going to come up that are going to be mentioned.
And who are all the parties involved?
You, the state, the defendant, me.
Okay. Ms. Lewis, if you could place 3 South, Mr. Tom White, Mr. Segura, and myself, and Mr. Walker in the breakout room, please.
You say you want 3 South in there too?
Yes, 3 South in there too. Mr. White asked for his client, or shall I, it's just going to be a sidebar.
No, Judge, I'd like the client present. This is a bond hearing that we would like to do, but.
All right, understood. Yes, Ms. Lewis, 3 South as well. while we're waiting on Mr. White and Mr. Positions 9 and 10, I'm just going to go down the calendar with council. So on the add-on calendar, position number 1, Ghani is, the case has been arraigned and reset. I don't know what date that's going to go before the division judge. Position 2 is a plea for Hughes. Position 3 prior was a plea. Position 4 is further notice to Judge Porter's calendar. And position 5, Don Travius Williams, is reset to June 28th. Okay.
Judge, also let the folks know, I'm sorry, Judge, let the folks know those June 28 calendars gonna be an add-on because the calendar already went out for June the 28th, so.
Okay.
Expecting an add-on.
Mr. Coleman, or Mr. Howard, are you available to take note of the announcements I just made?
I'm here.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, Mr. White, what would we like to do for positions 9 and 10?
Judge, Miss Grace never left the breakout room, so there was no attorney-client privilege. So we need another breakout room with just.
No problem. Oh, she was with me, so I'm okay. Excuse me about that. Miss Lewis, if we could place 3 South and Mr. White in a breakout room, please.
They should be able to just rejoin it with themselves, but I will put them back in there.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on with the main SAP calendar. Sean Anderson, position 1, do we have an announcement? I have a medical reset. It's, can I reset it to next Thursday? Okay, so reset to June 30th. Position 2 is a waiver of arraignment will be filed, and that case is further notice for trial. Position 3 is reset Grady. So we're going to reset that for June 30th. All right.
Hold on 1 second, Judge. 3 South, you've been invited to go to breakout room 3. I don't know if y'all see it on your screen or not.
It wasn't on the screen. Let me try this icon down here.
Oh, all right. Moving on, the SAP calendar, position number 4 is reset. That's Whitney Craig is reset to June 28th. That will be the add-on calendar. Position 5, Brad Davis, that was a plea. Position 6 was a plea. 7, Evans is a plea. 8, Funches is a plea. 9 and 10 pending. 11, Hargrove is released. 12, Harris is released. 16 and, 13 and 14. 13, Jason Hood is reset June 28th. That will be on the add-on calendar. Position 14, Hunt is a plea. 15, Husband was released. 16, Johnson and 17, that's going to be further notice jail jury. Mr. Coleman, I'm assuming that the Public Defense Office is going to file a waiver of arraignment.
I can file a waiver, yes.
All right, please file a waiver of arraignment before 5 o'clock. Email to Melissa Grace for position 16 and 17. So these are further notice for trial. Position 18 was a plea, 19 was arraigned and further notice for trial. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Mr. Lemos, I think he took a plea, didn't he?
That was a plea, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Christopher Lemos took a plea, yeah. Position 20, Maxwell's a plea. 21, McWhorter's a plea. 22, Mobley is, I'm assuming, Mr. Coleman is going to file a waiver of arraignment. And
Yeah,
it's
I've
gonna
already
be-
sent the waiver on that one.
All right, and this is going to be further notice for trial. 23, Hezekiah Morris is a plea. 24, Quincy Riley was a plea. Corey Simon, 25, was reset to June 30th. Was he reset or did he take?
He was reset.
It was reset, Your Honor.
Okay. Yeah. And Ms. Sari going to, or whoever is going to be there next week is going to clarify the terms of the plea. 26, Stevens is a plea. 27, Taylor is, Mr. Coleman, that's your client. Can you file a waiver of arraignment so we
I
can further
will.
notice it for trial?
I will.
Thank you. 28, Rasul Tiers is released. 29, Waddell is a plea. 30 and 31 are pleas. So we're just holding on positions 9 and 10 now. And our competency calendar, which we will address shortly. Okay. All right.
Judge, you don't need probation no more, right?
Her dog being impounded and her being without her dog had a real bad effect on her, but there's been no indication.
You're on mute.
Oh, sorry, I don't know what is the
It's the compass.
announcement
Okay,
for
okay.
position 9.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm sitting tight.
All right, Mr. White, what's the announcement for position 9?
Mr. Grooves would like to enter a plea.
Okay.
Only way he can get medical services.
All right, and this, because of his extradition warrant, once he understands that, once he completes the
Judge,
terms.
he does. He's been through this before. We believe that warrant, that they're not going to come get him.
Okay.
So.
All right, that's not a problem. We can move on. All right, we have case 21 CR 0060248, State versus Brandon Groups, accused of battery, domestic violence from June 5th, 2020. Mr. Groups, you have been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Tom White. Is this a negotiated plea?
It is, Judge.
All right. Mr. Groups, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Segura, what's the state's recommendation?
The state's recommendation is 12 months to serve 28 days, credit for time served 14 days, balance probated, FWEP, a stairway from 765 St. Charles, Atlanta, and a stairway from 783 Frederica Street, Northeast Atlanta, and no further contact of Harold Sturkey. Sturkey spelled Sturkey. Thank you.
Mr. White, is your client agreeing to those terms and stipulating to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
Judge, yes, we are.
Mr. Groups, you've been advised of I think I already placed you under oath, didn't I? Yes, okay. Mr. Groups, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
Not even medical.
Okay. And have you understood the proceedings so far in your cases?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you satisfied with the representation of Mr. White?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. And if you decide that you would want to plead guilty to battery, domestic violence from the June 5th, 2020 incident, you would have to give up your constitutional rights to go back to court in Fulton County State Court to be able to have the assistance of counsel so that you could challenge the state's evidence, confront your accuser, examine witnesses, present your own defenses, and have the state try to prove the charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. Are you prepared to give up these rights?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to one count of battery, domestic violence?
Guilty.
I accept your guilty plea. Your sentence is 12 months to serve 28 days, credit for time served 14 days. If you have no other holds at the Fulton County Jail due to any other holds issued by any other jurisdiction, then you will be released within 24 hours to report to Fulton County Probation. You will report to Fulton County Probation within 48 hours of being released and to report on either Tuesday or Thursday at 132 Mitchell Street. While you're on probation, you will attend and complete a domestic violence intervention program, and you must enroll in these classes within 60 days of being released. You're to stay away from these two locations, 765 St. Charles and 783 Frederica Street in Northeast Atlanta. You're also to stay 200 yards away and not have any contact in any way, form, or manner, including social media, with one Mr. Harold Sturkey. Your probation fees shall be waived, and you will report to probation every month. That concludes this case. Thank you.
Judge, I'm sorry. I did neglect to ask for a waiver of 6 or 7 months of probation fees.
I waived all probation
Oh,
fees,
thank
and you
you.
will report every month.
Thank you, Judge.
No, this is just for position number 9. Position 10, Mr. White is sending us a proposed bond order modified.
It's gonna be a null price, Your Honor.
Okay. Position 10, the state will issue a null pros.
Some,
Funny how that works out. All right, that concludes our case. Thank you.
thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. White, we've gone over the calendar with Mr. Coleman. He should be able to brief you on the status of these cases. Position 9 is a plea and position 10 is a null cross.
Okay,
All right,
Judge,
folks.
I'm going to
Yes.
bring where should I bring my paperwork?
If you want to physically bring them, is to courtroom G33.
Okay. How long are you going to be?
Let's put it this way. Let's go to J150, the clerk's office. Miss Melissa Grace is on her way there.
Okay, that
All
works.
right. Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Howard, Mr. Walker, and who else is joining us for our competency breakout?
Ms. Burgess.
Ms. Burgess? Oh, there she is. Okay.
I'm sorry, recording stopped. Recording is stopped.
All right, we're going to stop the recording and the live stream. And Ms. Lewis, if you could place me, Mr. Howard,